We'll take questions for Rory first, please, and after he's done, he'll leave, and then we'll move on to Gregor. If we can kick off for questions for Rory, please.
Rory, that was a bruising experience, I'm sure. Where did it go wrong?
Yeah, it was tough scorelines to take in the end. I think probably the most obvious difference is just how clinical Ireland were, and we weren't clinical enough. I'd say I've obviously not watched it back. It's tough to sort of say what I think too much right now because I've not seen it back, and then it's still obviously a sore scoreline, so I'm not sure, but I think it felt like they just took their opportunities better.
And Scottish errors, I mean, to go 17-0 down, it's like shades in the World Cup, I guess, but it's a step back from Dublin last year. You stayed in the fight to the end in Dublin. Today, we didn't see that.
I think the fight was there, and from everyone on the pitch until the end, but yeah, in terms of scoring, getting away from us, it came down to errors, like you said, from our side, and the reverse on their side.
Anything more?
Well, we knew this would take. Well, an 80-minute performance, you couldn't afford to start the way you did towards it wrong at the beginning of the game.
Again, it's tough. I've not seen it back. I'm trying to think how the game went to start with. We received, exited, and then I think just too many entries, which was the story for the rest of the game as well. Like they got into our 22 too often, and a team that are as clinical as that, you're always going to have a tough day.
I feel you were on the wrong side of some tough calls from the ref.
Yeah, but that's sport, and I think it's one of the uncontrollable things that you just have to deal with, and you can't focus on it too much. You have to focus on what you can do differently.
So moving the dressing room like.
Obviously, everyone's hurting. I mean, it's tough in these weeks when you work so hard throughout the week, build it up so much, build so much belief in yourself and your team, and then you go out and you just don't perform as well as you would like to, and come out on the wrong end of the result like that. That's it's a sore feeling, as you can imagine.
Did you feel physically dominated today at times, particularly at the start of the game when they were points ahead and they were held up twice? Do you feel as if there's a power problem?
No, I think that's Ireland's game, isn't it? Is they like to run those really tight shapes and make it difficult to defend, and then blast you at the ruck time. But I don't think we felt physically dominated. I think it really is, as I said, I've not watched it back, but I think it really was a case of I think you were saying earlier, Greg, we had 5 opportunities in their 22, and that we lost the ball, and they were obviously very clinical. That's what I think the difference was.
But what's it doing for the players mentally, this run of results against Ireland, and it just being a hurdle that you can't seem to get over?
I mean, there's obviously got a few questions about this in the press conference. I think the biggest thing for this game, and still the biggest thing now, is it was the second round of the Six Nations. Both teams were on a win, 5-pointer, and whoever won it essentially was going to be at the top of the table going into round 3. When it comes to Six Nations, I think you have to give the credit to the tournament, and that's what the game was. That was the reason that the game was so big, and every time that we play Ireland, usually it's in the Six Nations, and usually there's a lot to play for, so that's what it comes down to for us.
Rory, I think it was the 50th minute, it was 7-8, you had a penalty under post and 2-3. Was that an easy decision to make because you were playing on top of them at that stage?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, like, you back yourself there to go for the 3, and then it's a 6-point game, 1-score game, and we've got to just sort of exit better, but then they turn the ball over and we turn it immediately over again. So we're looking in a good place there, and I'm not sure exactly what happened after that. I think they scored off of a sort of box kick that's bounced the ball, so a bad decision.
Why is it something like, even if you held them up twice, you make them big defensive bigs, and yet they seem to continue to play? Why is it so hard to get out for the sake of get into your...
It's their game, isn't it? I mean, they're ruthless. That's what everyone says about them before you play them, and usually after as well, they're ruthless, they're clinical, and they make you feel like you're under a massive amount of pressure. But I thought we actually dealt with that yellow card period pretty well. The couple of hold-ups, like you said, and then scoring just before half time was a big moment and gave us a bit of belief. But then just didn't capitalise on that.
Thank you. Cheers.
That's all right.
You first up?
Yeah. Listen, the first 30 minutes, Gregor, I mean, it was a total disaster. 17-0, 2 boys off injured, yellow card. What are you thinking at that point?
Well, obviously, you're thinking different things during that period. The yellow card when we were 7-0 down, that was going to be a tough period for us. And we actually regrouped fairly well. I think it was 3-0 just at the end of that period, but with 2 minutes to go, the yellow card, we lost 2 key players. And yeah, when you're 17-0 down, it's when things haven't gone well for you and you've had to make changes. You do feel that the opposition could build on that, but I was really proud of the way we came back. The way we came back at the end of the first half, and then how we got line breaks, how we got in behind, we forced penalties. And Murray's question before about should we have played in that area, I felt we were getting back into the game, getting to 6 points. And then you look at the error off the kickoff, that just gives them momentum back. But up to that stage, we were building back into the game. But once they score another try, it's very tough to get ahead again.
To go 17-0 down, it's kind of shades of the World Cup games. Can you say that this team is progressing against Ireland when that happens again?
Well, if you look at one opponent that we're playing against, well, obviously they've beaten us again, so they're a quality side, and we didn't play well enough today. We made a few errors in that first 20 minutes. A couple of handling errors, obviously the penalty that led to a yellow card that put us under unnecessary pressure. But the middle period was where we got back into the game. We just didn't do enough to get ahead in the scoreboard.
What should you have done that you didn't do, that you were intending to do?
I think that there's too many, and you can't just say one thing. When we got back to 17-11, Matt Ferguson takes a kick off, has a great carry. As he hits the ground, he loses ball. Jamie Dobie gets up for a great high ball that he wins back. James Lowe picks it up and gets into our 22. So they'll be easy fix-ups. Look after ball in contact. Make sure someone is this side of Jamie Dobie when he gets up to win the ball back, so that the opposition don't get the ball. I think the bigger learning is we have to do more to stop an opposition like Ireland getting into our 22, because pressure comes from that. In the first half it was penalties, penalty advantage, then a try. In the second half it meant that we were having to play from a deep area, which was, at times we managed to get out there, but at times it's difficult.
Is that the fact that you couldn't do it often enough? Is that just a difference in class, or is it just your mistake?
I would say today it was errors that gave them the ball back. I think there were times when we did get out behind them. I thought our kicking game at time was very good, but we did have a couple of charge downs. And yeah, credit goes to Ireland here. They're a quality side, and they have been for a number of years, and they showed it again today.
What's the mood like in the dressing room with the players, and what will the challenge be like to put them back up now? Is it easy to pick them back up?
Well, it's more than picking themselves back up. They're obviously very, very disappointed losing after the effort they put into the game, and also the training week. A couple of players obviously injured. Although Finn is much better, but Darcy's in hospital, so that is never good in your squad when someone's away at hospital. But yeah, we know it's a missed opportunity. Every game that you lose playing for Scotland is a missed opportunity. And we have to wait 2 weeks now for our next opponent, which will be a very tough game.
Darcy, you got any kind of detail or feel?
No, he was still waiting to go for scans, was the latest I heard. So I believe there's no issues around his neck, but more just seeing what the concussion has came from. So just hoping there's no any broken bones or anything in the face or skull area.
Finn's, he's failed the HIA obviously, but he's kind of won that. He's absolutely.
He passed his HIA.
Oh, he passed it, right.
But it was more the communication that Peter Horn and a couple of other guys at the sideline were having with him, and we decided he's not right. But he had passed his HIA, but there's a couple of things he wasn't remembering about plays, so we made the call not to put him back on.
Okay.
Yeah, he's fine. He's obviously frustrated that it was a freak injury. You collide into your own player. He's happened to him once before, and colliding into Xander for Glasgow against Connacht many years ago. So it's a huge blow for both those players, two key players for us to be out. We went 6-2 on the bench, and as luck would have it, you lose two backs early on in the game. But I have to say that the two players that came on, Stafford and Jamie, played really well, and I thought Tom played really well at 10. And you're asking them to come on when you're at that stage probably 10-0 down, I think. When you're having to play a lot better as a team, and you've got to drive that up against one of the top teams in the world. So they'll have got a lot out of that personally. Those three players that had to play in different positions.
Gregor, do you think, away from individual errors and stuff on the pitch, does this run of results against Ireland specifically reflect a structural issue with Scottish rugby against the Irish system?
Well, that's a big question, isn't it? Although I think we have to praise Ireland, what they've done structurally over the last few years. They've been in the top 2 or top 3 of world rugby for a while now, sometimes number 1, often number 2. They're going for something unprecedented this year, which is a third Six Nations title in a row. No team's done that. So what they're doing is producing results and quality performances. And we've unfortunately came up against them during this period and not managed to get ahead in the scoreboard at the end. And today was another example of that.
Firstly, fair play for not putting Finn back on. It wasn't. Was that a tough decision? Like a straightforward?
No, straightforward. I think.
So he's past the HIA.
Past his HIA, and then as soon as we were saying, okay, this is the next play, he was going, oh, what's that play? So those are signs that he's not clear to go back on.
Just on the kind of individual areas you mentioned, the restart, like a minute in, there's a drop high ball, they take over from there, kind of the drop ball before the yellow card. What do you do? Just say don't do that again, or how do you actually make that disappear from your game?
Yeah, well, there's some different errors. Like I'd say it was an error from the referee when there was an advantage over at the beginning of the game, and Sam Prendergast, who played very well, kicked the ball, and that is advantage over. And every game I've seen, when you go 2 phases and kick the ball, Duhan picks it up, and I'm not saying we're going to score, but it looks like we've got a line break there. They go back to the scrum, and then they make real inroads from the scrum, and that forces penalties. There's obviously errors that just happen in a game. You can't stop errors. You've got to adapt to them. Matt Fagerson's one where he presented ball and the ball shot out. We actually recovered well. Hugh Jones got a turnover about 2 phases later, and I don't think it's really an error. Jamie Dobie won the ball back. It was good play by them to anticipate, and James Lowe to get the ball and get out of 22. The game is so competitive now that and with the new kicking law emphasis, there's more loose balls. The rucks are so contested. When you play against Ireland, they play on the edge of the laws. We aim to play on the edge of the laws. So it's not that errors are going to disappear. It's making sure on those drop balls you don't allow the opposition into your 22 or give them easy chances to score.
Have you seen much change in Ireland, obviously with new 10, Sam, or is it more of the same?
Is it more of the same? Probably, yeah. I think they've not had to change much from their game because their game's been very successful. There's little tweaks that we see in how they defend and how they try and keep their discipline, because the interpretation around the breakdown has changed, and that has meant higher penalty counts. So they've maybe changed that a little way, but it's a similar Ireland. It's tight running lines, put your defence under pressure. Sam, there's a reason why they're picking Sam. He's someone that can play that game very effectively.
You've bounced back from these kind of defeats before. How kind of weary are you that you're back in this space again? Like you're kind of running to standstill?
Well, it's a one-off game, and you've got to have context. We're playing a tournament where you've got to play 5 games, and if you start to overanalyze what went on in the one game, you lose sight of what you've been building towards. I think I said before the game, chatting to Andy, that like Ireland, the defeats that we've had against Ireland have shaped who we are as well. It's changed a little bit how we've played, and that's been transferred to other performances. Didn't transfer well enough today, but you've got to take the learnings out of your game. They're disappointing. Like, no one's more disappointed than me that we weren't able to go 2 from 2 today, and we weren't able to beat Ireland. But they deserve to win, and we've got to make sure that this game, but all the last 4 or 5 that we've played, are part of who we are next time we play.
Gregor, on that, you said the World Cup game was a defining moment for the team, but do you feel like it's kind of gone back to square one a wee bit today?
No, I don't.
Is the golf not as big now as it was then?
The scoreline was big today, but I think, I know it's your guys' jobs to talk about this game, but we have to look a bit longer term and where we've been. After that game against Ireland, we did in the World Cup, we changed a lot. Who we select, who we are as a team, and that was done with the players as well. Our next game, we played a different type of rugby against Wales. We've carried on that, we've added bits to it, and we've been really competitive since then. Today was probably our most disappointing performance, defeat, let's say, since Ireland. But it happens every now and again. So if it was to happen in the next 2 or 3 games, I'd be much more concerned. But today, the better team won. We know we gave them opportunities to get their game into place. But I thought, given what was going on with down to 14 and the changes, the players adapted really well and fought their way back into the game, but didn't do enough to win, obviously.
What gives you confidence right now that the full campaign can still be successful with a few games?
Well, it's going to be difficult. Look, we've lost to the number 2 team in the world who are going for the 3rd title. Like, if you take it like that, you go, well, it would have been a shock. I think it would have been a massive shock. They were clear favourites if we had won, but it wouldn't. Like, we believed we can win, and we worked hard towards a win. Playing our next opponent was always going to be difficult. We don't have a brilliant record down there. It's a very tough place to play, but we do have a very good record recently. But they've just came off the back of winning a great game against France. So we know how difficult each game in the Six Nations is. We've got to obviously play much better next time to have a chance of bouncing back with a victory.
You going to have any of your injured ones back? Is there any prospect of getting anyone back?
Well, I don't know how Darcy will be. Let's hope he gets all clear and it's a 12-day stand down and no more. Cam Redpath played last night or yesterday afternoon. He'll play again this weekend. He got through that game fine. Ben Muncaster, I believe, is available to play. I don't think Kyle Steyn will be available for the England game, so hopefully I'm not missing anybody, but correct me if I'm wrong. Adam won't be available for the Six Nations. So yeah, there might be a couple of guys back, and I don't believe, apart from Darcy, anybody's picked up an injury today.
Was fit enough and past his HIA to get you confident he would be fine?
Well, look, I don't know the protocols of passing HIA and then being pulled out. He will now be classed as a failure, like delayed symptoms. So he, and I don't know whether that would be just 7 days. So it's based on his record and based on the passing HIA too. But there's no game for Finn next week anyway. So we'd hope he'd make a full recovery in time for England.
Great, thank you. And on to the huddle, please.